Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 3 of Question Block. So we're over here on the free to play today. Um, I'll talk about that when I actually make my video. I'm making this before my weekly video, but let's get started here. So let me. Nope, nope. So 3. All right, we're just gonna kick right into it with the first question. We've got it right here. Burning half-decent epics is crazy, given you need much better results in Faction Wars so you can craft better perception gear. Any of the epics could get you past the first boss and give you better gear. Okay. So we read that one, right? And then I'm going to go look at real quick where that comment was. So that was on episode 22. So long time ago. Now, they don't know this, but just a few episodes ago, I called myself out on this and said, I'm struggling to get perception gear because I can't get to the legendary item or the legendary drops. So part of that is due, in fact, to sacrificing short-term gains for long-term gains. Now, assuming they've watched them in order and didn't just cherry pick an episode or anything like that. Also, kind of convenient that they go back literally the day after I call myself out. But regardless, let's just, assume. So they're absolutely right. I am suffering a little bit. However, you've been with me. For those of you that have been with me through this entire journey, there's never been a scenario where I would have taken any of the half decent epics that I got rid of to 5 stars. And the reason I support that is look at my Dur or my Hoferes, 2 revivers that I'm keeping for Faction Wars. Neither one of which has been leveled, geared, booked, mastered, any of that. So to say that the half decent epics that I pulled back in day 22 would make a difference to where I'm at in the game right now as far as getting those legendary materials from Faction Wars is kind of irrelevant, right? Because yes, will it help me way down in the future? Absolutely, it will. When I have the resources and the time to level up more weaker champions or half decent epics as they referred to. But that time is still not now. And so, but what did I gain from sacrificing some of those early epics that I still wouldn't be using 60 days in? I mean, it's really hard to put a value on it. How much do we know how much I gained, right? Like am I doing Clan Boss Nightmare 4 key right now because of those sacrifices or not? There's no for sure way to know. But it did speed up my progression in general across the game quite a bit. And I think that was overall beneficial to me and the account. Now, again, please understand, I am not claiming to be an expert, and we'll get into that in another question here in a little bit. But I wanted to share my views and my opinions. That's all that this is. If you guys get a half-decent epic and say, I don't really want to get rid of this, by all means, don't. I hope the message that I put out there was not to get rid of all your epics. That's not the message that I'm giving at all. I'm simply trying to say, hey, it might be beneficial to if you get a very weak epic early on. Like I always get rid of Shaman. On any account that I've ever played, I get rid of Shaman. I'm also going to get rid of Yaga. This dude right here, he's food. That's the only reason he's 40. He's going to become a 5-star piece of food. So, bad epics, absolutely get rid of them. Half decent epics, or ones that you're going to use in the future. Case in point, Lady Annabelle. I know I'm going to use Lady Annabelle in the future. Is it for a specific boss? Yes. Is that way off in the future? Absolutely. But there's no reason to get rid of her now. But really, really early game, when getting that first and second level 60 champion makes such a huge difference for the account. I was very happy to make that sacrifice, and I would do it again, regardless of the impact that it had on my Faction Wars. To each their own. There are definitely differing opinions out there. That's part of this whole process and this, concept. But I just wanted to share my thoughts on that. And I thought it was a great comment. Very great comment. Absolutely, you are 100% right. It is, what was the terms that they used? Is crazy. Yeah, I mean, you can call me crazy. Crazy like a fox. No, I'm just kidding. All right. So we talked about that one enough. I'm going to try not to ramble on. So this one's a little long one. So, uh, and I didn't read the name on the first one. I apologize. That was Ashley Little 6776. All right, we've got Doji Grovesai. Blah. I really appreciated your time with my questions last time, so here are a few more. Your champion farming seems super effective. I'm having a bear of a time trying to get 5-star food at the rate you are, and I'm wondering if this is just because I wasn't optimizing my time properly, referring to questions from last week. So if you haven't seen last week's episode, I think he was asking about how do you balance your energy, your time, and so on and so forth. So a great example is that right now, I really want to grind food for my UDK. I have a champion that I'm super excited about and I want to level. It's the first legendary I got that I pulled from shards. So that's like my focus right now in the game. So that's where all my energy will go. I haven't been spending my energy over the weekend. I have been taking a small break, kind of relaxing and playing some other games last night. And then this morning, I was on the main account doing Hydra and watching football. So I hope this energy will be gone by tonight, but you know, at the point of this video, it's not. So sometimes, you know, we make sacrifices and we aren't always playing the game and grinding that energy. Now, let's see, seems super effective. So part of the reason it seems super effective are the choices that I made early on in the game. Right out the gate, starting with Kale. Could I have started with Sun Wukong? Yes. Could he have been a campaign farmer? Yes. But would he have given me the damage I needed in bosses and the damage that I needed in clan boss to get extra gear early on? And I don't think so. Dragon specifically is basically clan boss. A lot of people say that, me included. So I knew that going with Kale first as my farming champion would help me everywhere in the game, not just certain facets of the game. Likewise with Deacon Armstrong, I knew that he would help me everywhere in the game, not specific areas. Like Sun Wukong is a slightly more specific of an area. So, as far as the efficiency, it's patience and grinding. So before Kale hit 60, and I maybe didn't cover this as well in my old videos, it's been 2 months, I don't know. You know, I would farm at specific stages. I know I farmed a lot at Palace of Averia, or Aravia, sorry. And then I farmed a lot in the Deadlands trying to get War Maiden, you know, who I didn't really need. I was still kind of thinking in my old school way of thinking because I didn't realize how great Deacon was. But for me, yeah, 12-3 brutal. I think for you, the key, the goal should be to get to 12-3 brutal. If you're struggling, for me, I struggled to get to 12-3 brutal because Kale would die and he didn't do enough AoE damage. So when you look at Kale when he farms, he uses his big AoE attack on the first wave. That wave's done. On the second wave, he uses his triple hitter. I think that'll kill like maybe 1 or 2 of the guys, maybe 3 of them, but then he single attack. Then he starts the third round with a single attack and not a full wave clear, which means he's going to take a hit. That's why I feel like Lifesteal gear is so valuable, because he's able to keep himself alive in order to take those hits on that third wave. A big part of this could also be gear. It takes more than just having 6 strong pieces. And again, let's remember, I had a huge head start in gearing because of that card flipping event that we had, where I was able to get 6-star pieces of really quality gear. Righteous set is an incredibly good set. We got the Killstroke set, another incredibly good set, and I got 6-star pieces with good stats on them. I mean, we got 20% crit rate on this shield here, so I was able to build my champion, my farmer, to be very strong very early, and maybe hit 12-3 brutal a little earlier than some other players may have. And so eventually I did swap over to Sun Wukong to be my camp. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't finish my point. The other part of it would be accessories. If you're lacking in the right accessories for the account, like say you didn't have a banner for a very long time, or you didn't have a crit damage amulet, you might not be able to one-shot the waves. So there's a lot of factors that can go into why you're struggling to complete to grind as fast. If you're not able to do 12-3 brutal, you are going to be slower than my account. I mean, that's just because you just physically can't get the amount of energy I am, or the amount of experience I am per energy. So your primary goal should be to get to 12-3 brutal. That's where you want to be. Masteries as well. If your campaign farmer doesn't have any masteries and isn't putting out that bonus damage and speed and whatever, extra crit rate, extra crit damage, all those masteries that really benefit them, then that could hold you up as well. So it's hard to know for sure where the disconnect is without being able to get in there and look at your account. But for me, if you're at 12-3 brutal, you should be able to keep up with me pretty close, as long as you're 100% 12-3 brutal and you're able to do it in a reasonable time. Now, right now, my time with Sun Wukong. Yep. Okay, I'm just checking, make sure I wasn't gonna level with anybody that doesn't need to be leveled. I want to say around like 11 seconds or something like that. Now this got slowed down because UDK can't die. You really want your food to die when you're farming for that very reason. So UDK took an extra hit, so 15 seconds, but my fastest was 8 seconds, and that's going to be with Sun Wukong. The other thing too is, how are you choosing what food to farm? You'll notice I have my main guy that I'm farming here, a 3-star and a 2-star. Now, why do I need 3-star? Well, I have my 4-star ready to go. So I want to level somebody up to a 5-star piece of food. Yaga is going to be level. He's my next 5-star piece of food, right? He's ready to go. So he needs food. Well, I don't want to put epics into him. So I need to level up 3 stars. So you'll see I have all these 3 stars ready to go. But I don't like to put other 3 stars into them, because then I don't have 3 stars to level up. So I'm leveling up 2 stars to put into them. And so Yaga has 1 4-star ready to go. Then he has this Hound Spawn, this Diabolist, and then if we look, I'm still leveling 1 more 3-star. So when Prosecutor here is done being fully leveled up to level 30, then I'm just going to start throwing 2 stars in here. And even after UDK hits 50, I'm putting 2 stars in there, and then basically just working my way up from the bottom. So when it's all said and done, I will have 3 3-stars that are ready to be that are level 30 and ready to become 4 stars. I would then need 9 2-stars upgraded to 3 stars, and then it's just a chain effect. So there's different ways that you can do it. Go. Thank you. Sorry. So there's different ways you can do it, but you'll see I sub in another 2-star, and then I just keep hitting replay. And I actually do it manually quite a bit. You can definitely auto these and use the queue feature. I do that quite often as well. But it's usually, once you get a fast enough campaign farmer that's in the 6 to 8 second range, I mean, I've got for those of you that don't know, I've got another monitor over here. That's why I'm always looking over here at stuff. I can throw a football game on there and just keep hitting replay every, couple seconds. Okay, a play is over, replay. Watching a play, hit replay, watching a play. Like I do that. I consume all my content, my TV shows, my YouTube's content. I didn't mean to pluralize that. Is and all of that is on this other screen right here. So I just sit here and hit replay. Now, I mean, obviously, if you're gonna spend time with family and stuff, that's where the phones come in handy, right? You can do it on your phone. Maybe even at work on your breaks, you can be sitting there hitting replay. There's different options, and those are the things that I take advantage of. So, let's get to your second question here. I don't recall you talking about the sparring pit much. Is there a point where all 5 slots should be unlocked? A video from MTG Jedi advocates for unlocking all 5 ASAP in order to streamline the food farming process. And you're curious as to my thoughts. I disagree with unlocking all of them. Now, on a free-to-play, and I disagree with unlocking all of them right away. Is there value in it? Absolutely. I have them all unlocked on my main account. And I've done that because honestly I just had more gems than I knew what to do with. So I just opened up those slots, and that's usually where I level my new legendaries. This right here, like, this isn't set up or anything. Like this case in point is my biggest frustration with the Guardian Ring, which is this portion of the sparring pit. Or no, I guess it is just the sparring pit. So it's called the Guardian Ring, and this is the sparring pit. Okay, this is my biggest frustration with the sparring pit, is that you can't necessarily use the champions that are in here. So I ran High Elf, Faction Wars. It would have been yesterday that I ran it. And I used my Alhain, who was sitting in here. Well, I forgot to put her back in. And I had no clue. So we were just sitting there with nothing being progressed. Also, if you're not in there hitting like level up, then you're missing out on experience gain, right? So if you're a very heavily active player, absolutely. If you log on once a day and you level everybody up like we're talking 50 days to level somebody up, theoretically, not actually, but depending on how long you're on and all those things. So for me personally, my gems are quite valuable. So I don't want to spend them on the sparring pit right now. And that brings me into so this is just my opinion. Sparring pit is not a place that I would put a lot of my gems early on. Can it help? Yeah, you could throw a bunch of 2 stars, you could throw a bunch of 3 stars in there, get them leveled up, come in, and boom, you've got a whole bunch of food ready to go. Like, absolutely. And it does save you resources. If you were to convert the amount of gems that it costs to unlock one of these slots, let's say that 300 gems, if we convert that to how many gems it would cost for energy, you would save that energy over the long course of a campaign. You will save yourself a ton of energy because you won't need to level these champions repeatedly in campaign. And so I do see that point, but for me and what I'm trying to do right now, the Guardian Ring or the sparring pit is not my priority. That will not always be the case. There will be a time when it's like, I have more gems than I know what to do with. I don't have any champions to level up. I don't need to buy ancient. We'll get to that in a second here. So there will come a time where I will unlock more slots in here. But as of right now, it is not a priority. And that's just my opinion. Again, differing opinions. I want to be straight up about that. Third question. Not so much a question, though this is a question, but I'd like to hear your thoughts about gem spending in general. You've mentioned using gems for mastery for the first 2 or 3 champions, but then what? Gems for energy, gems for ancient shards, gems for energy refills only. So, first and foremost, um, if you want to be fully efficient, gems for the first champion is the most efficient way. Get that first champion, whether it's your starter champion, an epic champion, or a legendary champion. Get that first champion fully mastered. At that point, unless they're absolute dog, they should be able to solo farm Minotaur at the highest level. Which at that point, then they'll be able to. You can then bring in food while also gaining. Well, no, you don't really want to do that. But you'll be able to generate masteries for your team and no longer have to spend gems on it, because if you did the math, it's cheaper to spend the gems on energy and Minotaur than it is to spend them directly onto the champion. Okay, so for me, I'm using my gems for masteries, plain and simple, because I'm lazy. Um, it takes for somebody that works full time, has a main account that needs to be efficient and productive, meaning I have to do clan boss every day, I have to do Hydra every week, I'm pushing dungeons, grinding gear, I'm doing this fusion this week, spending another an hour or two running Minotaur to get all my masteries for somebody, even though it saves me gems, that time is more valuable to me. So I'm going to mostly be doing masteries for my champions using gems. Now, I may run into a point in time where I won't be able to do that, but for the foreseeable future, that's my plan. To answer your question about where would you spend gems more, like if you're not, if like let's right now I have a surplus, right? So I have about 400 gems of surplus, almost like 360 gems of surplus. Where would I spend them? Well, we talked about one of them, which would be the Guardian Ring in the sparring pit. Um, and you made some good points about like what about for ancient shards? What about for energy refills? I've mostly encountered using them for energy refills. Um, because the account is so new, there hasn't been a situation where I'm pushing for a fusion or something. But more often than not, when you're pushing for a fusion and you're like, okay, I average 20 points per run. At that rate, I need 2,000 energy in order to get all the points I need from this event, right? And you have 800 energy, but you have a whole bunch of gems. Well, it's situational. That's what I mean to say. It's situational. If you're in a 2x event and you're tracking your mercy and you're like, I guess that really doesn't matter if you're tracking your mercy or not. If you're in a 2x event and you have a bunch of extra gems and nobody to focus on, like if you're sitting on like 2,000 gems and then you look and you're like, I don't have anybody I'm trying to level up right now. I don't have anybody I need to get masteries for. So you can come in here and spend some of those, spend 900 of those 2,000 gems, get yourself 11 ancient shards, and go pull those guys, right? During a 2x event. That's a great idea. Nothing wrong with that. It's all situational and it's all what you need on your account at that time. I'll tell you right now, if I struck out on this event, I think the next one, it's either a Void or an Ancient. Obviously, it has to be one or the other. But the next 2x event, if it was Ancients, and I mean, my gem count would only go higher between now and then because I wouldn't be spending 800 on masteries for UDK if I struck out, right? So at that point, then you just, you don't have anybody you want to build. You don't have anybody you want to focus on. So now you need to pull a champion that you can focus on, whether it's an epic or a legendary. So yeah, buy some extra gems. Nothing wrong with that. It's situational. It's all about how you want to play and what you want to do with your account. I realize that's not the best advice. It's, it's ultimately being like, oh, well, do what you want. And if the answer to every question is do what you want, then why do I make videos? But every account is different, and that's one of those things that's just extremely situational, and you can never really determine. We've been lucky enough on this account to not need to spend gems anywhere else because we've always had champions to work on that were really really good. And Husk would theoretically be who comes after UDK, right? I don't know that he's still the go-to right now. I'm going to be honest with you. Obviously he's not fully booked out, no masteries, but he was a little underwhelming. And even on my main account, I was super excited when I finally got a Husk because everyone talks about him on Hydra. He's been a little disappointing. He never seems to land the taunt as much as you would want him to. And that's probably partly on me for my mastery choices on him, I'm sure. And he never seems to hit as hard as you want him to with an enemy max HP attack. So we're gonna, we're focusing on UDK right now. We'll see what happens. But if I make the decision that Husk is not the guy and we end up in a 2x Ancients, then yeah, I might buy some shards. So, all right, where are we at for time? All right, we're at 26 minutes. This one might be a little bit of a longer one, guys, but a lot of good questions, and I really wanted to get to all of them. This is a really good one here. So we've got... Let's do this. Yep. Please, how do you recognize a War Master proc after the hit? So we'll just go in here and do... Dragon. I don't know that I can farm that one consistently. So we're going to come down here. All right, we'll have to get through the wave. So recognizing War Master is... It goes so fast, so you may not always see it, but one of the dead giveaways of War Master proccing usually occurs when it's your champion that's not built. All right, so we're gonna slow it down. So that no War Master there, no War Master there, no War Master there, no War Master there. I think those 10Ks were Giant Slayer hits. 14K, that's a War Master. 14K, that's a War Master. Okay, so now how do I answer that question? How do I know that that's a War Master? Well, because it's a big, big number, bigger than what their original attack was. So Ursula doesn't do 14,000 damage per hit, okay? And so when I see Ursula do a 3,000, see how that wasn't critical? That 10,000 right there isn't critical. War Master and Giant Slayer procs cannot be critical. So when you see those non-critical numbers under the critical hit on champions that you know are 100% crit, that's a War Master proc. Likewise, as I was saying with Ursula doesn't hit that hard. So to see 14,000 below her damage, that's because it's a War Master proc, which is procking based on the enemy max HP. It's also going to be a consistent number across the board. Kayle may hit for 20k, then for 15k, then for 20k, etc., etc. But that consistent, because it's based on max HP, will always be consistent across the board for that like 14k value in that particular instance. Regardless, you don't really need to be able to identify War Master procs. If you pick War Master, it's going to go off. There's no there's no reason to need to track it and say, oh yeah, that was a War Master proc. Yeah, I'm mostly pointing it out so you guys can physically see it and understand it better, because a lot of people, and myself included, when I first started playing the game, I went and I found a list of masteries and I just picked them and didn't know what any of them did or what any of them meant. Because this game is so deep and there's so much stuff to learn, you can very easily, miss out on what is, why you're picking these abilities. And so I wanted you guys to understand, look at this. This Ursula just hit for 14k. That's a War Master proc. And likewise, because the clan bosses have so much health, it hits so much harder. You know, she's not hitting for 14k on clan boss. She's hitting for much, much more. Now, I don't have a key to do clan boss right now, but that's how you know. Likewise, you'll see when they, right before their turn, you'll see a bunch of red numbers pop before they take their turn. So that right there, those were 2 poisons. That was 14. That was 7,000 2 times. Those were the poisons, the baby poisons right here that were applied to the boss before he took his turn. You'll miss a lot of this stuff. Like, it goes so fast on 2x. I slowed it down to 1x so you could see it, but like that 14,000, 10,000, that's a giant slayer. 2 10,000s in there. So yeah, you don't need to identify it, but I try to make sure you guys know that's happening, because if you're just picking talents, you may look at a champion, like if you don't know what War Master does, you may pick a champion like an Ursula and think, well, she's not going to do any damage on clan boss. I can't take her. I need damage. I need to squeeze out 1,000,000 more damage, and Ursula can't do it. Not knowing that an Ursula with War Master may be enough to give you that extra 1,000,000, plus the other benefits that she brings to the account. So I wanted you guys to physically see what it was, but you don't necessarily need to know and watch when War Master happens. Okay. We got 2 more questions. I think this one is an important one. Okay. I didn't say who did question 3. That was Cedric Kamga. All right, so we've got Brett Jamesy. It'd be good if you reinforce your view by pointing people in the direction of other great content creators like Hell Hades, Colred, Ash, and others. Even something as simple as using RSL Helper. I've mentioned that on my account already. We'll show you the accuracy and resistance needed to beat that. I talk about looking on Hell Hades for that. Speed is most important in 99% of all builds. Every champ should be wearing speed boots. A percentage increase in speed will give you that percentage increase in damage / debuff / buff / heal. It's the most significant percentage gain you can add to your build. Hell Hades has speed tuning tools, again PC, to help you get past roadblocks. I like your keep it real approach. Try not to rant too much. It's better to provide links to other content creators, info to support what you are saying. A lot of information in there. All right, first of all, I've talked about this before in the past. I don't name content creators. If I'm referencing something, then absolutely. If I'm like, oh, Hell Hades made a video on this specific thing. But I don't know. I feel uncomfortable. I want to do this. This is fun for me. It's not just fun. I think I'm doing a good job. You guys have given me feedback, aside from this comment, that I've been doing a good job. And so I'm going to keep doing it. And I want to be able to be in this space. I don't, however, want to ride on the coattails and, like, I don't want to be somebody that people look at my account and say, he's just like a balder, fatter version of Ash. You know what I mean? These are all great content creators. They've taught me everything I know. My favorite content creators in the raid space have been Hell Hades, Ash, and why can't I remember his name? Chosen. They've taught me everything that I need to know about the game. And even when this first started, I was linking their videos in my Discord to my clan members, trying to say, like, hey, watch this video, check this out. The reason that I started the channel is because a lot of those content creators are, even on their free-to-play campaigns that they've been doing, are so disconnected from the brand new people in Raid, and not their fault. When you play a game for 5 years, things just pop up in your head that are like breathing. And I'm not calling them out. I'm not insulting them. I'm not trying to be negative in any way. but sometimes they give advice that is good advice for somebody that's been playing the game for a really long time. I made many, many mistakes early on based around videos that those content creators made where they told me the secret to my game is going to be X champion, right? So I remember I went all in. I talk about this a lot on this account. I went all in on a Samus or a Saurus as my campaign farmer, and I never had the gear to make a Saurus work. Okay. And so that was a 6. I leveled someone to 6 stars, mastered them up, did everything. And it was a complete waste of my time and effort because there was no amount of gear on my account that would make them a viable farmer because I didn't understand the game and didn't understand the basics. I just found a video that said, "Here's your campaign farmer," and it's a farmable common. I was like, "This is the answer to all my prayers," right? Again, not an insult, not knocking them. Saurus is a great campaign farmer. Recommend him to anybody that has the gear to support him. Likewise, I went all in trying to pull for Coldheart on this account. When I say all in, I was deliberately pulling my Void Shards during non-2x events trying to get a Coldheart because I was convinced that she would be the answer to my problems, that she was going to change my account and make me do Spider at level 25 and I would just win the game. She is an amazing champion. Not saying she's bad, but you got to have the gear and the support structure around her. I'm trying to, just to put it in perspective, I'm trying to get a Coldheart to gear up in 4 and 5 star gear without any support champions. No healer, no reviver, nothing but a UDK to keep her alive. Against Spider 20 plus. I didn't know what I was doing. And she's not going to survive. To shorten that down, she's not going to live in that scenario. She needs support structure around her to keep her alive. She's very, very squishy. And yes, you can build her with HP and make her a little tankier. And you don't have to go as much crit rate, so you can make her tougher in that regard too. But you still need to have the right gear. 4 and 5 star gear wouldn't cut it back then. And so that's why I make this specific channel. My target audience is not people that have been playing Raid forever. My target audience are people that are new to Raid or people that are new to Raid and don't want to spend money on it. That's who I'm making this content for. Now, I do weave in my main account content every now and then where I try to give advice based on stuff, but I realized early on I don't necessarily want to be that guy and I don't need to be that guy. Meaning I don't want to be or need to be the guy that tells you that this is the best team for Bommel because that video already exists. You know, I made a video, you can look in my history. I made a video talking about, I think it was Lady Annabelle as my Bommel character. There's 1,000 videos on YouTube about Lady Annabelle being a Bommel character. That's not my zone. That's not my niche. Okay. So now why don't I feel comfortable calling them out by name and saying like, go check out this video by X content creator? I don't feel comfortable doing that because I feel like I'm an invader in their domain. I'm an intruder. You know, I'm not. I have 300 subscribers. Spoiler alert. I was going to celebrate that in my next video, but I have 300 subscribers to their like hundreds of thousands or millions. You know, I don't feel like I am at that place yet where I can start being like, go check out my friend Hell Hades, you know, because I don't know. And so I feel uncomfortable riding their coattails and trying to raise myself on this platform off of the work that they did, which is why I try not to point out too much of the stuff. Now, resources and tools that they've created, hellhades.com, I will absolutely tell people to go check out hellhades.com. Anytime I'm reviewing champions on here, I'm talking about hellhades.com. I'll pull it up on the other screen. Um, Also, the accuracy and resistance that you need, you don't even need to have RSL Helper for that. You can go to hellhades.com for that and just type in the difficulty raid stages tool. And I've used that on this account. I may have put it on screen, I may not have, but um, so I hope that answers that. I know this wasn't a question, but it was something that I read that impacted me, and I wanted to speak to you guys on it. I don't feel like I'm at that level where I can just start commenting on other people's work. Um, if I use them as a source, I'm going to cite them and say like, "Oh, Hell Hades said this." Um, but some stuff's also common knowledge, like So asterisk everything that I know, and then just automatically give credit to Ash, Hell Hades, or Chosen. Okay, um, a percentage. A lot of this stuff is stuff I've already talked about, so I don't know why. Like Speed Boots talked about it. I don't know why. I don't know what video this was commented on, but um, and then me ranting too much. Absolutely right. Your comment made me like really try to tone down my rants and try and it's not I'm not ranting for ranting's sake. I'm trying to get a point across and I can't find the words. And so I keep talking and talking and talking until I get the words to come out. And so it's not on purpose. I just want to be able to relay my point, and I would like to articulate it in a way that can get across the point. Um and then I don't necessarily think I need to put links. If I was quoting a direct video, which they do all the time, but they are friends. They are, or at the very least, acquaintances. They work together. They say like, "Oh, I saw this great video." Like they're cool with that. I don't have a direct line to message Ash and say, "Hey, I really liked your video about X, Y, and Z. Can I use that in my content?" I don't have that. And I don't feel comfortable just assuming that he's okay with me doing that unless I can speak with him. So that's why I don't provide links to other content creators info to support what I'm saying. I also don't feel like I need to do that. I don't think I need to link to them to support what I'm saying. I think my gameplay has been support of what I'm saying. My focus on Clan Boss has been beneficial. I have a UDK on this account right now. I'm four keying Nightmare on this account right now after 60 days in. I'd like to believe that my proof, while based on what they've all said from the start, I'm not directly running exactly everything they say. I'm making different decisions on my own account. So um, I hope that kind of gets my point across. That number one, I don't feel comfortable just willy nilly talking about other people's work without their permission. Um, Maybe I'll gain that confidence. Maybe I'll at some point as the channel grows, I'll make contact with some other raid content creators who will say like, "Dude, don't worry about it. We're all cool with it," or something. But until that time happens, I'm not going to just start like I don't know. I'm torn because I I just finished college. I've been doing a lot of papers and you cite your sources, right? Um I just don't know that they're okay with it. I don't know. It's a weird. I'm just uncomfortable. That's just plain and simple. I get anxiety about this kind of stuff. I don't know what the right protocol is, so I just avoid it. Uh, I know that's not the answer that people want to have, but it's the truth. That's how I feel. So, maybe that'll change soon. Maybe it'll change later. I don't know. But for right now, I don't know that things are going to change too much. Um, yeah, I'm going to move on because I don't want to rant about this too much. All right, last question. Apologies for this being a bit of a longer video, but this is a great question. What stats you want? This is from Dark Vager. What stats you want on each class, like DPS, healer / DPS, tanks, revises? Okay. So It depends on the champion. Well, let's take a look. Sun Wukong. We know that he's DPS. We know that he is an AoE nuker. That is what his job is, to do a large amount of damage in AoE form. He is attack based, therefore we want attack stats on him. But for any nuker, you want them to be 100% crit rate, with one exception. And when I say one exception, I don't mean one exception in the form of a champion. I mean one exception in the form of champions that have this particular functionality. If their abilities, all of them, have an additional chance of inflicting a critical hit, you only need to build this champion to 75% crit rate, or whatever the appropriate crit rate is. Now, there are exceptions to that exception. Kayle, for example, he gets an extra 15% chance to crit with his A2. However, he doesn't get that same percent chance to crit on his other abilities. So you still need him at 100% crit rate. Likewise, Hefrak, who's a very popular champion and my biggest PvP nuker on my main account, gives himself crit rate of 30% and then an extra turn. So theoretically, you could build him to 70% crit rate. But interestingly enough, when an ally dies, he uses his A2, which is a big nuke. If he's only 70% crit rate, he may not have this buff going on before that activates. So I keep mine at 100% crit rate. That's something that you should consider. So for DPS, meaning nukers, you want them to be at 100% crit rate, or the amount of crit rate they need to be to always critically hit. Then you want their main stat to be whatever stat priority matters for them. Sun Wukong is a attack-based nuker, so you want to have attack percentage where you can get it on him. Likewise, you would want to have a high amount of crit damage. Now, if there was a crit damage chest, we'd probably be putting crit damage chests on people, but there isn't one. So you would, based on what stats are available on a chest piece, you would want to go attack percent. Now, if this said HP, then you would want an HP percentage on that champion, because their damage is based around HP or their health. Likewise, if it was based around defense, then you would want them to have defense on their chest plate, and you would want to farm up as much defense on the champion as you can, because their damage is built around defense. Now, this is for nukers in particular, because there are nukers that there are HP nukers, there are defense nukers, and there are attack nukers. And I say nuker because DPS does not always mean, like, you can have really, like, a heavy DPS character that may be via poisons or something along those lines, okay? So I'm talking about nukers for now. If you're talking about debuffers, we want to have accuracy. So here we have Deacon. He debuffs the enemy team in the form of decreased defense and reducing their turn meter. I need to have accuracy on him in order to land those abilities. If I had an accuracy banner that was higher than 4 stars, I would use that on him. But quite frankly, I have enough accuracy because of my perception gear that I don't need it. For now, that's really low accuracy. We would want it to be higher later on. So that would be your debuffer. Now let's talk about revivers and supports. Or revivers and healers, we'll say, because technically Deacon is a support. So when you look at Ursula, she's my reviver. In a perfect world, if your team had to die, in a perfect world, and you have a reviver, you would want your reviver to be the last person to die, because they can just bring your whole team back. Therefore, you want to build your revivers to be tanky. there's some caveats there. What if you have a reviver that also needs to land a decrease attack, or that needs to decrease turn meter? Well, then you also need accuracy. And that's where, and then you may want them to go first. You may want them to be fast so they can apply in, because she buffs, and you may want them to give increase attack to your team as well. So you may need them to be fast. And so you build gear based on that. I'll put it this way. If we look at my Spirit Host, we build her for all speed, and she has flat stack gloves. That I never bothered to level up either. So we went all in on speed and didn't worry about HP, defense, or any of that. We just wanted her to be fast and then die. If you want someone that needs to be fast and live, you want to put defense stats, HP stats. You want to get those stats where you can on the account. So you want them to be tankier. So here we have a defense ring. We have a defense amulet, accuracy banner, because we want to land those debuffs. So it depends on how you intend to use the champion that determines what type of gear you want on them. In the case of my apothecary, ideally I would want him to be a whole hell of a lot faster than he currently is. And this gear really doesn't make sense on him. I just threw some pieces on him and didn't really think about it too much. But you'd want to have survivability on him in order to keep, and speed, to keep getting your team going faster and faster and faster through his A3 boon of speed. Likewise, with Apothecary, you might want him to be crit capped, because his heal can crit, which is a unique factor of his kit. For healers, I don't really have any on... Well, we can use Ultimate Death Knight as an example. Some healers, or shielders in this case, have the value of their heal or their shield proportional to this champion's defense, or this champion's HP in the case of other healers. If that's the case, then you want that healer to have as much HP as possible to make their heal by a larger amount. Likewise, for UDK, I'm going to want him to have as much defense as possible while not limiting his usefulness, in order to give him the biggest shield possible on a 3-turn cooldown when booked. So UDK is going to get built with a lot of defense. Likewise, that would also increase his damage, because he's a defense-based champion. All of his abilities are based off of defense. So I hope that answers your question. It's always situational. You want to build to the strengths of the champion. And it just takes, every champion is different. For Husk, you might say, well, he's enemy max HP. I want him to have as much crit damage as possible and to be completely crit rate capped. Well, yes, but you also need him to have, for Hydra, you need him to land his provoke. Or you may want him to land his stun. Well, now you need accuracy too. And this is where I talk about champions that are harder to build, because you need to build them with accuracy. You need to build them with HP. You need to build them with defense. You need to build them with speed. When you have champions that do it all, sometimes it can be really hard to build them the right way, per se. Like Armiger is a good example of that. You need him to be crit rate capped, but you also need him to survive. He's an uncommon. It can be difficult to kind of find that right balance of abilities. Sometimes champions will give themselves an advantage by bringing things like increased attack accuracy, so that you wouldn't so much need to go all out on those stats. So I hope that answers your question. I hope I answered all of your questions and comments, because not everything was a question. Some of them were comments. I have been very appreciative of all the feedback. I kind of spoiled it, but we are at 300 subscribers now. We are making steady progress in that department. I'm super proud of where the channel and the community is. I intend to continue making content and bringing great content out for you guys. I'm working every day to try and come up with stuff. I'm thinking about this game all the time and how can I come up with new ideas to keep it fresh and interesting for you guys as things start to become a little more stagnant, as far as the progression goes. So, thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.